Hi, Lorenzo here. As part of the signature assignment of this course, I'm going to introduce you the design principles of an online tutorial for the installation, configuration and use of Word newspapers on a smartphone. The first thing I'm going to do is actually to introduce the different steps I followed in order to apply a specific instructional model. In this case, I applied the Understand It by Design. As you can see, the first step I did was to identify the desired results. Desired results came in the form of learning objectives. So, applying the Bloom's taxonomy, I actually identified some learning objectives which fall under the knowledge, skill, and competence. So, in the knowledge, using action verbs, I identified a learning objective like identify the main components of the application, and then describe the steps required to install the application on a smartphone. Then, as part of the skills, configure and use Word newspaper on the smartphone. And then the competence, explaining to another user which steps to follow in order to install, configure and use the Word newspapers application on a smartphone. Now that I have my learning objectives, the next step was to determine the acceptable evidence. So how would the learner actually demonstrate that he or she understood and acquired that knowledge, skills and competence necessary to install, configure and use the application? I used some essential questions. So I asked during the course the learner to actually answer those questions. Essential questions in this specific tutorial would require the learner to explore the application even further, not just to install it, configure it, or use it, but to uncover certain aspects and characteristics of the application in order then to fix better the knowledge and skills and competence in the student's mind. As part of the planning of the learning experience, I placed the instruction material, so what I would call instructional tasks, inside an online learning course. I've set up a course in LMS, in a learning management system online, and I have created learning tasks and placed the essential questions as the evidence for the demonstration of the achievement of the learning objectives, in order then to create an alignment between the learning objective, the assessment and the instructional task or learning material that I placed in the online course. As you can see, this is a URL of the online course I used. If anyone wants to try, you can just copy the URL in the browser and then launch the page, and then he will enter directly into the course. The course has two main characteristics. First, it is made of 3 main instructional tasks, which means 3 set of actions that the learner will have to perform in order to learn how to first install and then configure and finally use the application on the smartphone. Secondly, for each task there are essential questions, meaning there are questions that the learner has to answer in order to demonstrate that he or she has actually learned and absorbed the information and developed the kind of skill necessary to install, configure and use the application on the smartphone. The learning management system I used on purpose provides some extra feature, and these extra features are being used in the course in order to create some engagement and some motivation. First of all, at any moment the learner can actually review the progress status of the course to understand which parts have been already concluded and which not, and what is the part of the course, the percentage of the content that have to be still completed in order to finish the learning experience. The second feature I used in the learning management system is creating positive reinforcements. So after each task there are the essential questions, and every time the user, the learner in this case, answer the questions, he will get a positive message, a reinforcement message by the system. Normally there will be a way of rewarding the learner for having achieved that milestone. For instance, getting a specific badge or point which will somehow increase and will complete the learner portfolio until he or she gets to the conclusion of the course. So let's see how this actually works in practice. When the learner accesses the course, it is then presented with the first task. The task is very simple. In this case is installing the application, and as you can see in the course there are three main instructional tasks: installing Word newspapers, configuring Word newspapers, and using Word newspapers. Each of the three instructional tasks has a number of instructions, one for each task in this case, and for each instructional task there are a number of essential questions. Once the user has concluded each part of the course, then the bar will be completed as a percentage of progression, and once all the tasks have been concluded, then of course the bar will be completely green. All the tasks will be then ticked off, which means that the course has been finished, and then there will be a message of congratulating the student for having concluded the task and the course. So if I scroll down here, you see that there are a number of tasks, okay, and once the learner has actually completed the 4 steps, then you can complete this and go to the next. Then the student must answer the questions. He cannot put an empty answer here and try to submit, so the system requires the student to actually fill in this part. To answer this question and all the other essential questions, the student has actually to make a bit of research, go into the Play Store of Android, of Google in this case, and then look at the application and investigate a bit on the details of installing the application, downloading the application, Play Store, and other steps, other activities that actually can be done in the different environments. In this case, the user will type something as part of the response, and then we go to the next. So as you see, in this case the user got 25 points in his pocket. So in this case we'll have to answer the second question, and then there are another 25 points, and then the third question of the same task, and another 25 points. So at this point you see that the system showed the progression of the course, present the next stage of the instructional path. I present here the different steps for this task, configuring the application. Once the user has completed this, you will see that it continues completing points until he actually goes to the end. On the completion of the last task and the last question, the course is completed and the student gets the achievement message from the LMS and the reward of having completed the whole learning experience.